Hey everyone, I have a really great show for you today, especially if you like hot bearded gay dudes. Also, Brian Sims is joining the show today. He's the Pennsylvania State Representative. He is a activist and a gay rights activist, a RuPaul Drag Race fan. We've talked on Twitter about food, politics, drag, everything you can possibly think of. It was a really fun interview. We talked about a lot of the crazy that went down with the election, and this is before everything that happened when the president and Ted Cruz and all the other people inspired, the Capitol be stormed. So check out this interview. I think you're going to like it.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm glad it's Friday. I'm planning on doing absolutely nothing this weekend. And we've been trying to do this for a while. So I'm very excited to kind of have this be my last real thing I have to do today.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. How about you? What's going on? How was you had a meeting, you said?
Yeah, my last couple of days just haven't belonged to me, and that's as it should be, I suppose, with a job like this. But one of the interesting things that I found back in March is that when COVID started to kind of happen, I got pulled into a lot of conversations, a lot of conference calls that I didn't think I would otherwise have been included on. And I'm only a state legislator, but I represent one of the 10 largest cities in the country, and I represent the core of the city. And so I have found myself on a lot of these intergovernmental, interagency calls that are pretty important. And it's amazing how little notice you get, or how little like impact I have, but they're really important.
That's cool. Well, I mean, it's a fluid year, so I mean, I suspect a lot of people are kind of trying to figure out exactly what to do and who should do it and how
and what the timing is like. And I'm pretty adamant that I don't want a single member of my legislature to receive a vaccine until all the healthcare workers in my state have. And I don't care if they're 70 or 80. I don't care if they have MDs. All of them also have a job where they can stay at home and still get paid.
Right.
And so until everybody who can't stay at home and still get paid gets vaccinated, I'm pushing pretty hard to keep my colleagues from getting it. And we're right in those weeks where they all want to be vaccinated, and I have warned them that I will blow the lid off of it if I find out any of them have been.
You've had issues too where people, your coworkers, have come to with COVID
5 times.
Yeah.
5 times they have exposed us to COVID. And, after the first time they didn't tell us. It took us a week and reporters to find out that we had been exposed right before a holiday. The last 4 times they have told us, but it hasn't changed their behavior. They still won't wear masks on the House floor, and they still won't allow any of us to debate unless we're on the floor.
Wow. I don't understand.
Yeah, I think they count on us not understanding, right? I think they're banking on us intellectually wrestling with this while they're just laughing, knowing that what they're doing doesn't really have isn't really based on a moral compass.
I mean, how can it be? We're at the point where over 300,000 deaths. I mean, it's,
how can it be?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have like as many people who died in 9/11 dying each day now, right?
Each day. Yep.
It's obscene.
Yeah, if you took the 100 largest cities in America and said that for the next 100 days, each one of you is going to have a 9/11, that's what we have coming up next.
Wow, it's crazy.
Yep.
How has your pandemic been otherwise? Like, how have you adjusted, and what are you kind of doing to sort of stay sane if you are staying sane?
Yeah, I don't know that I started sane. Despite having a very high profile position in a major city, I'm a lot more of a loner than I let on, or than people think I would be initially. I get it, public official, elected official, there's the sort of the ego and the attention that comes with all of that. But my close friends know that I'm a lot more of a loner than I let on. And one of the ways that people figure that out about me is that I spend a lot of time camping and hiking alone, at least me and my dog. And so for, early on during the pandemic, I didn't, when I'm in the Capitol, I don't stay in my own place. I stay with friends, and I didn't want to stay with them during any of this. And so for weeks on end, I was sleeping in my car or sleeping in a tent. I bought a canoe and started camping on the islands that the capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisburg, is on a river. And there's a bunch of islands on that river. And I camped on a bunch of those during the pandemic.
Right.
I'm okay. Yeah. It's not healthy emotionally for people to be having having stuff thrown at them in the way that a lot of high profile people do. And everyone has different coping mechanisms for dealing with it. But for me, it was really nice to be able to step back from all of the galas and the meetings and really just do the work. The output of my office, I just had this data run in the last week. The output of my office's constituent services increased 209% during COVID.
Wow.
And it needed to. People didn't need to hear me at town hall meetings, and they didn't need to see us at paper shredding events or out cleaning the park. What we needed to do was convert every single person in my office to constituent services, to getting people up on unemployment, to making sure that people had the resources that they needed during this, and we did it.
That's awesome. I mean, I feel like I kind of understand a little bit. I feel like I almost feel like a war profiteer, like because my business is also blown up during this. Everyone's cooking more, right? So like,
Yep.
kind of like first week of the pandemic, like I got like 20,000 new Twitter followers. So people are like, oh my God, I need to know how to like store food. I need to know how to like where to put my celery and how to cook this. And, and so it's just, stuff that content I've been creating for like, I started my food blog in 2012. And so it's been there for quite a while, and I'm just having things that are just exploding because so many people are trying to not go to the store because it's safer. They're trying to go, or, they're trying to cook more because it's either cheaper because they're unemployed or, they can't really get food delivered, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
So it's been challenging to feel like, sort of happy about that growth and then why that growth is also happening.
Yeah, recognizing the value that you add without, it's important that people are paying attention because they have information that they want to know. And that's a good thing, right? It's not superfluous. It's not wasteful.
Right.
It's informative.
Well, and I think that's kind of like why I reached out to you about being on the show. And my goal actually is I want to release this pretty close to the inauguration. I think that's kind of like the perfect time.
Cool.
As I mentioned before, you're my first politician. So you've popped that cherry, so to speak. So, I did talk to, and I guess actually, no, I did way back in the day talk to Gavin Newsom, but like that was not for this. So,
I'm a legislator. He's an executive.
Yeah. But, it's the reason I like to have people from all walks of life on my YouTube channel is because we all have to eat, and everyone has a perspective on food. I think it's one of the most political things you can do, right?
I agree. Also one of the things that brings communities together.
Definitely. Speaking of which, so like, tell me, what are some of your favorite things to eat or drink? Or I'm gonna have some water while you tell me that.
Sure. Yeah, I like a lot of attorneys. The way that I got through law school was working at restaurants and working at bars. I have worked in restaurants since I was a sperm. But it's the thing that I've been doing my whole life. My whole life I've worked in restaurants. And towards the latter end of that time, my time was spent as a grill chef at a bar in Napa Valley in a little town called Los Gatos at a bar called CB.
I love Los Gatos.
My mom is from Los Gatos.
Okay, cool.
And so I lived there every summer of college. And CB Hannigan's is a giant Irish pub that also you could rent out these huge barbecue pits, and we would come to your big party or your winery or your graduation, and we would do ribs or for 500 people or cook pigs. And St. Patrick's Day was one of those one of those holidays where the entire restaurant staff got to take the day off and come in and just we'd have a big blast in town. And so I can grill almost anything but ice cream, and I'm super proud of that skill. It's something that I have kept up over the years. But what I decided to do during COVID is I wanted to try to prepare a bunch of foods that I eat all the time, but have never cooked and would never think about cooking otherwise. I live in a huge city, and I've got wonderful Indian food, and I'm right next to Chinatown and the Italian market, and there's a Laotian place around the corner that I'd never tried before. And so what I decided to do was really to start with some of the basics. For me, it was tofu. I made tofu 4 or 5 different ways because I had never prepared tofu in my entire life. After tofu, I think I did soup dumplings, which was a really complicated day with a bunch of friends. I had people call in and help. I did matzo ball soup. I had all of my Jewish friends. I asked them to have their grandmothers Zoom in, and we did like a Bubbalas day where I had a bunch of my friends' grandmothers kind of walk me through their recipe for matzo ball soup. And it went so well that I did it maybe a month later with a bunch of friends of mine that were Latino, and I had all of their abuelas call in and like walk me through, cooking their favorite foods. And it's actually been a lot of fun. I mean, I think I cooked 2 pounds of snails one day. I learned to make like a 6 mushroom soup. It's, funny things that I like that I'm never going to spend the time otherwise learning how to do. And if I mess it up, who cares?
Yeah. Well, and I think like that's the thing with food. I mean, I think experimenting is where it really comes with. I try to always encourage people when I make recipes. I'm like, just kind of use this as a starting point. Maybe you want it just the way it is, but like, feel free to screw with it and make it your own too, because I think that's what makes food fun. And as a vegetarian, I love that you started with tofu, because I think it's actually one of those things that I don't eat a ton of, but people always think that I do because I'm vegetarian, and I actually like it. It's one of those things I eat when I go out. Like, I go to Thai food and I'm like, yes, give me all this tofu and the spiciest sauces that you can put it in, and I will eat it all, But like when I'm at home, I make a lot of Mexican food. I live off Mexican food for the most part. So.
Well, one of the neat things about living here is that half of my staff are vegetarian, and we've got a lot of really quality vegetarian places in town, but also just given that we have food from all over the world, there are, whole communities and whole cultures where they're just the protein basis of their diet isn't animal proteins. Right. And so it's not particularly complicated to live a really adventurous, colorful vegetarian diet around here. And so just yesterday, for example, I got my whole staff, it was our staff party. And so I had food delivered to everybody wherever they live for lunch at the exact same time, which was a logistical nightmare, by the way. But one of my staffers ordered from one of my favorite vegetarian places in town that happens to have the best chocolate cake in all of Philadelphia. It's a flourless chocolate torte from Hip City Veg. And it is incredible. And he'd never had it. And I thought, how is it that you've lived in this city for 5 years as a vegetarian, and you've never had this thing that wins awards? But it's been a really fun thing to be more creative with food instead of less creative during all of this, because I've got the time. I can sit down and read a recipe, which, recipes, the first half hour of them is mostly just the backstory of the recipe writer's life and love. And until you finally get to the recipe at the end. And it's been fun.
It's funny because there's a lot of like controversy around that format. I personally don't do that format. Like, I know
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I understand why people do it. So, I know a lot of food bloggers do it because on Google, the further you read down on a page, the higher up your page ranks. So they're kind of forcing people to go to the bottom of the recipe. And I get it. They're doing something for free, and you have to do what you have to do to make a buck. And some of them, they just want to sort of wax poetically about whatever. But I'm like, no one cares why I went and picked these blueberries. They just want the recipe. So I'm like, just give me the recipe, But, so I understand the frustrations and also the reasoning behind it too. But you're going to have to care
about your blueberries.
Yeah, exactly. That's a new hashtag, I think. But I think that you're going to have to send me some of your vegetarian restaurants in there, because my goal, like the beginning of this year, I bought a new car, which I bought specifically for road trips. It's a convertible. I was like, I just want to drive it across country and back. And so I will need some good vegetarian restaurants when I hit that city.
Yes, please. Also just with the, we have a lot of really wonderful Indian food here in Center City, it can be largely vegetarian. Yes, the Italian market, despite the name, has some of the best Puerto Rican food that I've ever had. And a lot of it is vegetarian as well.
Have you had Southern Indian food?
I don't know that I have.
So that's probably.
I guess I do know that most of what I eat is Northern Indian. I guess I don't know what Southern Indian fare is.
They usually call it out because it is so different. So, so typically the Northern style is kind of those like kind of sauces that you kind of put over rice with naan, right? So it's like saag paneer or that kind of thing. And then the Southern style, which is my favorite. I love Northern too. I love Indian food and can eat it all the time. But the Southern style is the same sort of flavor profile, but they do it in crepes. So they typically have these they're called dosas, and they're made.
Yeah.
Have you had that?
I have.
Okay, yeah. I love Southern Indian food. It's one of
almost like a flaky Indian burrito.
Yes, that's a really great way to describe it. Yeah, definitely made from wheat flour or lentil flour, but I just love it. It's get that nice curry potato center, and they're just delicious.
Yes. You'd love eating in this city. I'm telling you, it is. It's one of the neater things to do about it is just because the nickname of Philadelphia is the city of neighborhoods, and where I live in the neighborhood is wedged right between the Italian market and Chinatown. And a number of years ago, I found out that something like 70-80% of the places in Chinatown were buying their noodles off of a noodle restaurant or a noodle maker in Philadelphia that didn't have a front of the house. It was just a factory that sometime maybe 3 or 4 years ago added a front of the house, and you can go, it's $8 or $9. You can get pretty much any noodle dish in there. But if that's the place where everybody in Chinatown wanted to buy their noodles, it's where I wanted to buy my noodles as well, and it's completely worth it.
Have you ventured into making homemade noodles and homemade pasta yet?
I've tried making some homemade pasta. It kind of tanked, so I just made gnocchi.
I mean, it's actually one of my favorite things to make. I don't know, there's something very like zen about making homemade pasta. So I love making everything from homemade lasagna noodles to homemade raviolis to whatever. But I also get why it can be a challenge. It's a little challenging too. And I think also pasta, like you can get really good pasta so easily that I understand why a lot of people probably don't go to explore that. But what are some of the what are some of the dishes that you get at these places? Because you're kind of making me hungry now, and I'm sort of thinking about
it's interesting. If you and on like an average day, if yesterday, for example, when we were all ordering for everybody, my chief of staff jumped on and she's like, I think I know what everybody has ordered. And she could kind of go through and guess what, for our special meal that we're all sharing, what we would get. And she pegged me exactly, and that was sushi. Sometimes it feels like a cop-out when you're talking to food people about all the different food options that are available. What do you like? Why do you like it? I could live off of a sushi diet for the rest of my life, I think, and be very happy about it. I spent most of this year being vegetarian on Mondays and Wednesdays, which sounds funny to a lot of people. It wasn't intended to like make me feel like, haha, this day I'm healthier than that day. Right. It was intended to teach me more about vegetarian dishes as entrees. It was intended to make me eat vegetarian food, or I'll say non-meat food, as opposed to just sticking to side dishes on a particular day or a particular time. And what I found was that for me, both Indian food and Puerto Rican food were so high on the list of things that were filling and flavor, like really flavor forward, really strong flavor profiles. When years ago, 2007, I went vegetarian for a year, kind of on a bet. I'm a big meat eater. I'm a heck of a carnivore, and I thought I'd give it a shot. And what I found is that for almost a year, all I did was eat side dishes. I was just eating, the pasta. And this is, by the way, familiar to every person who was a vegetarian through the 90s and 2000s knows exactly what I'm talking about. Because you'd go to a restaurant and they'd be like, oh, we have a vegetarian plate. And they would just combine like the side dishes from their 3 entrees. Well, I was eating like that on purpose. And it seemed like I was cheating. And so as I've come back, that's really what I kind of came back with this idea that I am not trying to eat things that have had the meat removed from them or had it substituted with something else. Yeah. I'm trying to eat very flavorful. There's a Bangladeshi restaurant here that's maybe 5 blocks from my house that is just the most flavorful food I've ever put in my mouth, and none of it's meat based.
Yeah. Well, it's funny too, because I've been a vegetarian since 1986, and I know a very long time. And people, when they reach out to me because they're kind of struggling trying to be vegetarian or vegan or whatever, because I do both vegan and vegetarian recipes, and they'll talk about like how hard it is to go to restaurants, and I'm like, you don't even know. Like, try doing it in the heat. Like, it was literally iceberg salads. Like for years, almost a decade, I probably wouldn't even go near a salad because every restaurant was literally an iceberg salad type scenario. And so, yeah, I mean, we still have a long ways to go, but we've come a long way.
Well, so talk to me about these new meat substitutes. I've tried them. They all taste fine, but they taste just like ground beef. And if I had moved away from eating ground beef, I feel like they're fantastic, and they offer a substitute for people who want that on their palate. Yeah. But I don't see a whole lot of vegetarians suddenly discovering that they want to taste for fake meat.
Right. Well, and I think it's kind of funny, and I think this is a really, really smart topic to talk about because I think it hasn't been completely addressed. And I think, a lot of times those substitutes, like you're talking like Beyond Meat and those sort of, or the Impossible Burger and those types of things, they're kind of targeting meat eaters, to sort of be more plant-based. But the thing that's kind of, I think, tough is I think they're good and bad. It's like, on one hand, if you're wanting to eat plant-based because you want to be maybe eating a little bit more healthy and have more of a sort of rooted food system that you're kind of being a part of, I think it's great. But they're just as filled with, the crap is like any processed food. So they're not necessarily like healthy. They're not like a whole food, in my opinion, type food. But that said, they are great for the planet, right? Because they're not any healthier than a regular burger, but the impact of a burger compared to like how much water and energy and everything else it takes to grow that burger, it's good on that sense. So I think it's, but that's never a part of the messaging, right? Like
never a part of the messaging.
Because as soon as you get into climate change, people are like, don't talk about that, and so like
that's too weird for folks.
Right, exactly, too weird, and so I think that I have to give them credit for taking something that really the benefit is the planet and not people, and making it something that's kind of popular still, because usually people are like, screw that, I don't care about the planet. And so I think that part is smart, but I think people do get I think they're being doxed a little bit with like the idea that like what they're consuming is now healthy because it's plant-based. It's like, no, it's really not.
Yeah.
I don't even eat those things because they taste like meat. I stopped eating meat because I don't like the taste of it.
Exactly. In a weird way, they remind me of, so I don't drink soda or cola or pop, whatever you call it, but I when you have a Coke Zero versus a full-blooded Coke, they might not taste the exact same, but they taste close enough that why on earth would you take the one that will kill you slowly,
right?
The one that probably isn't great for you either, but at least it's not going to give you diabetes.
Right.
I find it so strange that, all right, we now can make a burger that is the combination of, kelp proteins and it's plant-based, or we can still use 15 acres, 600 gallons of water to grow an animal, then make sure that it's putting out how much methane into the air, and we're it's using up oxygen, then we can kill it, slaughter it, and feed it to you, and it's going to be almost the exact same thing, but one of them is going to require massive resources that'll destroy your planet.
Right. It is there's a big like question mark over my head with that. It is kind of silly, and I think that like for me, like I don't. It's funny, I don't really wave the vegetarian flag too hard on my recipes and channel. In fact, I'll have people who will follow me for years, and they're like, wait, I've never seen a meat recipe. Are you vegetarian? Like they kind of like, it'll eventually click, but I don't. I just try to give them tasty things that involve vegetables, and like hopefully they just keep eating them, and that's the good that I do. But I think that with those sort of things that you mentioned, people they're trying to figure it out, and the messaging is confusing, and like they're like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I don't advocate, I don't try to convince people to not eat meat. I just try to convince people to eat less meat. So like, I think like, eat like our grandparents did, like meat was a luxury.
It was a specialty item. Yep.
Yeah, it was a specialty item. It wasn't, we didn't have industrial ag as, it wasn't as prominent, and you couldn't just like have bacon all day long in every single thing that you ate. And I think if you eat that way, like you're kind of talking about being vegetarian on Mondays and Wednesdays and that sort of thing, it's like, that to me is like what people should do. I think if like most people just did that, that would be a huge impact on our society.
Well, the expense of it hasn't been lost. I mean, it wasn't something that I was considering at all. Now I have the benefit of living 2 blocks from a Whole Foods, I'm near a giant otherwise open air market, and so it's easy for me to have access. But the savings from it was something that I didn't expect to find. I thought I'd have, I don't know. I thought I'd be spending more money on elaborate vegetables, and elaborate vegetables aren't more expensive than meat.
No, they are. I mean, it's funny too. Like, I think that's another part of it. People kind of get used to that expense, and like they kind of think that like you also have to eat those things to feel full, and you don't. I mean, there's lots of ways to combine different ingredients to make you feel full.
Make you feel full.
Yeah, exactly. I think, this from probably just being American and human, but also being in politics, our food system is broken. And, we have a lot of things that we need to fix. And this is probably like educating people on this is probably one of them.
Oh, well, my colleagues know that I don't consider myself a foodie. I mean, I live in a great food city. I have the highest concentration of restaurants of any legislator in my state. One of the things that they do know about me is that I pickle lots of things. I pickle lots and lots of things. And so I'm kind of always in this phase where people have jars of mine with pickles, and my only rule is if you bring me back the jar, I'll fill it back up and send it back off with you. And so I at any given time, I'll be in my office and get a knock on the door, and one of my colleagues will come in with just a half full or a pickle jar with no pickles left in it. Sort of like, I didn't know what to do with the brine. And you're like, dump it out. I'll start over. But I have been, this year I've pickled everything from lots of carrots, lots of okra, lots of sort of traditional pickles, that kind of a thing. But I have pickled my first kielbasa, which won't be interesting to you, but pickling kielbasa makes me feel like I've like walked into the OK Corral, like gone up to a saloon and like pulled a pig's foot out of a jar behind the bar.
There's also a very dirty joke in there somewhere. I don't know what it is.
Right? That'll be the name of our band, the Pickled Kielbasas or something. Like Pickled Kielbasa, like sounds like it describes half my neighborhood.
Have you, I actually I don't have a tree up this year because I just moved into this apartment, but there's the whole like, Christmas pickle, like the ornament. Do you have one?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
I sure do.
You should.
Yeah. My tree is right next to me, but it's hidden on the other side of my tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I usually do a recipe inspired by, so do you do like legit, like full on pickling, or do like quick pickles, or both, or?
I do a little bit of both. I like quick pickles because I tend to like a crispier, crunchier, I don't know, a fresher tasting pickle, but I also, part of pickling it is I want stuff around in February and stuff too. So I do a little bit of both.
Okay. So I always do a recipe inspired by the interview. I think I need to do a pickling one.
Please do a pickling one.
Like, I would also love if you maybe could send me some of your favorite pickling ones that you do. Like, if you're okay with sharing.
I'm always happy with sharing them. Yeah, darn right.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
lately, a lot of pickled asparagus. I had no idea that pickled asparagus was as good as it is. Use a cold brine so it doesn't make the pickles, so it doesn't make them mushy. They stay crispy and they're delicious.
One of my favorite things to do, I do this quite often, so I'll actually pickle a bunch of things together for like Bloody Mary. So I'll kind of just do a full like Bloody Mary mix with like spring onions, asparagus, like, carrots, other things, and then just kind of do it all in the same jar. And then sort of like you kind of have that same flavor profile for the Bloody Mary. So I kind of like doing that a little bit.
I love this. I started pickling like heirloom carrots. There's this place that I pass when I drive to the Capitol that I pick up farm fresh eggs and I can pick up heirloom carrots. It's like 10 different colored carrots, which I love, and they look really great when you pickle them, but about a week in, they all just are the same color. It's like the purple ones and the yellow ones and the orange ones and the red ones all kind of take on the same color. But I also I pickle a lot of beet eggs, which is a very Pennsylvania Dutch thing. The beets and hard-boiled eggs in a pickling brine.
I didn't actually, so my father he grew up in Troy. And so we lost him in the 90s, but like I have, that's my connection to Pennsylvania. But like, I actually have done like beet eggs before. I didn't know that was a Pennsylvania thing. And then I took the eggs and made deviled eggs with them and with vodka.
Yeah, darn right.
I
make like an egg salad with pickles that I actually pickle, and with a pickled, I don't make a pickled beet egg. I can do it's a pickled sort of a cinnamon apple cider vinegar egg. Instead. Yeah.
So when I do my road trip, I'm going to come your way, and hopefully we can just hang out for a few days and eat ourselves stupid. And then I'll just have to probably fast the rest of the trip. But like,
yes, please. Yes, please. Fast a little bit before you come, and then drink tons and tons of water for about 2 or 3 days. Stretch your stomach out. We'll fill you up.
Perfect. That sounds like an amazing, amazing experience. I'd love to talk to you. I mean, I feel like we have to talk about this election and like all of that stuff that's been going on, because I know like we were kind of talking early on, and then the just hit the fan, and like you're finally a little bit on the other side of it. So thank you for taking time to chat with me. But like, let's talk about like what that's been like for you this year.
Yeah, obviously it's been unlike anything that any of us have ever experienced. So it's a little trite to say I had no idea what this was going to be like. I was running for my fifth term in office. So my fifth reelection, which I won. I won pretty solidly, which I'm real proud of. Pennsylvania changed how we allow voting this last cycle, which allowed for mail-in ballots, which we had never really had before, not in the way that we have it now. And so we knew for a while it was going to be a complicated year, but I also serve on the committee in our state house that oversees elections. And I knew for 6-7 months that Republicans in my state were going to try to mess with our election, and then use the fact that the election had been messed with to say, we can't trust the results, we're going to send Republican electors. And I've been trying to blow the alarm on that for a long time and let people know. And as we got closer and closer to the election, that message started getting across to people. And so I kind of had the benefit of two things. One is I have a pretty large social media, which allows me to talk to people about what's going on. I don't have to I don't have to do a lot of the things that others have to do in order to get the news, for example, to cover them. The bells and whistles, a lot of the stuff is just not important. The information was important. And so I got to share a ton of information this election cycle. I also had the benefit of knowing, I don't know, basic American math. And so as the election was unfolding and it was taking days and
For
weeks.
some Republicans. I mean,
Right. Listen, there's a reason they're all former small business owners and not medium-sized business owners now. I'm not wrong about
a
that.
really fun interview to release. I just can't wait to share this one with everyone.
Something like 100 of my colleagues are former small business owners. If they were any good at it, they'd be medium-sized business owners right now and not legislators. It's like the number one qualification to be an elected official is you have to have failed a business. Like anybody can, you too can fail a business and become an elected official.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what got so complicated, of course, was when COVID hit. You know, my legislature is the state legislature that met the most during COVID. We were in session something like 15 of the first 18 weeks of the crisis. And not only do my colleagues refuse to wear masks, they continued to expose us. And we've had a number of outbreaks. And, I've got 6, 7 colleagues now that we think have probably tested positive that didn't even disclose to us that they had. And so, here we are trying to fight this false idea that our elections weren't anything other than fantastic, which they were. This is the cleanest, healthiest election that I've been around in Pennsylvania. And so, people always ask me, what's it like to work with people you don't get along with? And I say everybody does. Now, not every single person I've ever met works with somebody they don't get along with, or they have a family member they don't get along with, or they have a neighbor they don't get along with. We all know how to do those things. We had to learn it in elementary school, and you have to learn it every year at Thanksgiving dinner with that uncle that you don't like. For me, the same was true. I was the only out gay person here for the longest time, and these are people that oppose basic LGBT civil rights. And so it's not like I had to look very hard or very far to figure out what they thought of me.
Right.
What I never knew what happened, and it's the one thing that it will probably be the lasting feeling from this era for me. I never knew that despite how much we disagreed, I never knew that despite how much they don't believe in my equality, that they would do things that could kill me and cover it up and not tell others. I just really, you always think we all disagree, but when the sky falls, we're all Americans.
Yeah.
Or we all disagree, but we have a common enemy, and here this common enemy is a pandemic. No. The common enemy has turned out to be my Republican colleagues and their anti-intellectualism. And I don't think that they don't believe in science and medicine. It's that they choose not to hear what science and medicine dictates. And I really didn't know that until this point. I have lots of Republican that I work with that I kind of get along with, or so-and-so is not so bad, or I like that person. We've grabbed beers or drinks or whatever. And none of that's true anymore. None of that holds up because all of them, 100% of them, were willing to expose us to a deadly pandemic and cover it up.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really sad, and really infuriating too, because I agree with you. I mean, like, we've always sort of had like, oh yeah, we disagree on these things, but when the going gets tough, like, we all roll up our sleeves.
We're in this together.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, I think that's one of the things we've seen with the Trump administration. So one of the guys I interviewed, one of the founders from the Lincoln Project, like right before the election, and we were sort of talking about just kind of like how the Republican Party has changed, because he's been a strategist for the Republicans here in California for years, decades, and he's like, the GOP is pretty much dead at this point because they've gone so far off the edge, in supporting.
Yeah, how do you pretend you have morals after this?
Yeah, you can't be a family first or pro-life. You can't be pro-life and being like okay with people getting COVID.
You can't be pro-faith. You can't be economic stability. None of those things.
And that's the thing, we've just really learned that there's these people that I think, they've said they're all these things over like, decades since Reagan. Let's put it that way. Since Reagan, they've said all these things, but clearly none of those things are true. It's really power over people, and whatever their constituents believe, they'll bend to it to kind of keep them activated. And it's just really, I don't know. I mean, there's
you're spot on. It just seems so disappointing. My family is split Democrat and Republican, and tomorrow, I don't have to make up a scenario. In about 2 weeks, I have the 1-year anniversary of a kidney that I donated. I donated a kidney to a neighbor, and my my politics be damned, my family was there, right? Like they showed up because some things are more important than whether or not you believe in using the same words or believe in using the same roads or whatever. And it turned out that's not the case. The basic humanism with which I have been affording my opponents, that credibility doesn't exist.
I feel a big part of it too is like, I feel like the Republican Party is dying. You know, I feel like it's just, you know, the things that they have used to activate their base, like, you know, pro-life or gay marriage, or those things are the younger generations just don't give two fucks about, right? They're like, whatever, you know, they're okay. And so like, they're just, it's a big power grab. Like a lot of the gerrymandering you guys have seen a lot in, you know, in your state, you know, it's all a power grab because they know 10 years from now, maybe 15 years, what's their relevancy, you know?
They're losing in the marketplace of ideas, right? If you're losing in the marketplace of ideas, all that you've got left to do is steal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't know. It is a little upsetting. I mean, I just can't believe going to work where you might actually like put someone at risk and not telling them that you put someone at risk, you know, it's just.
Yeah. It is one of those things where, you know, all of us have relationships with people that, while we're not best friends, you know, we disagree on everything. But for me, there's 3 or 4 people in my life that people are always surprised to find out that I'm friends with. Hey, you talked to Representative so-and-so? Wow. And I'm afraid that during this time period, the quality of those relationships just tanked. Frankly, I don't care what's going on with Representative so-and-so anymore if he thinks it's okay to expose me to a deadly pandemic.
I know. I wonder, like, I mean, I wonder if there will be any sort of possibility for like legal.
Oh, I'm working on it.
Are you? Okay, cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm working on legislation to hold Republicans accountable for all these false lawsuits that they've claimed and filed and how much that's cost attorney generals across the country. I'm working on legislation to, I'll say, remind and reiterate Republicans what sedition means and what the punishment is for it. Yeah, I'm getting there.
Okay. I look forward to seeing those tweets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so hiking, camping, isolating from everyone. You know, it's funny because, like, you know, I get it too, because I think a lot of times when you're in the public space a little bit, people assume how you are. And I get it. Like, sometimes I just have to recoil and, you know, Twitter and the news and not respond to YouTube comments. I'm pretty lucky. That's the one, unfortunately, due to sexism, like, I don't get bashed on YouTube too much, but female food bloggers, man, they just, it's kind of sad, but that's a whole other thing. But
I'm sure it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's pretty gnarly. But my question is, like, what do you like to do? What are some of your other hobbies that you like to do? Obviously, play football is something you did in the past, but
yeah, no, I don't. It's not something I do recreationally. I really do like being out in nature a lot, and it sounds funny to kind of identify it as a hobby, but it is, when you live in a major city, it is kind of a hobby, right? Like, you need to get your daily dose of it, and, you know, plan it and all of that. And so for me, I don't know. I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time in cabins. I spend a lot of time on the road. You know, like every gay man, I know I can get lost in an antique shop when we're allowed to get lost in an antique shop. I have kind of a funny. I have a very retro style. I have a very 50s kind of camping cabin retro style also, which is good because I have no money, and that's helpful. And so I don't know. Of late, I spent a lot of time this month writing and reading. I've got a lot of legislation coming up as the new year starts. And so there's that. This is going to sound funny, but to somebody like you, it might not. I get an inordinate amount of messages and emails and you know, between social media platforms and 2 different email addresses and, you know, the kind of positions we have. And so I am trying to end this year at 0. I'm trying to end this year with every single email account I have, every single social media account I have down to 0 in the messages. And the problem with doing that is that it prompts more messages, right? Like, you have to respond and people start to write back.
So I have a trick I can share with you.
What do you got?
Yes. So one of the things, I use this plugin on Gmail, and I'm sure there's probably things for other email platforms, but it's called Boomerang. And you can, like, respond to an email, but schedule it so it goes out later. Because it's perfect because I'm one of those people that I probably annoy the out of everyone. I'll just put that out there because I'm always quick to respond. And so like I use it to like be like, okay, I want to scratch that itch of responding.
Yeah.
But let me give that person a breather. So I can be like, oh, I'll send that in 2 days, but I got to respond, but they won't get it for a little bit. And so it allows me to like kind of put
That's
some
a
space.
great idea.
Yeah. So
especially at night. I can get stuck in a manic loop of responses to stuff at night. And my staff, I always feel awful when I realize somebody responded to something at 5 a.m. And it's like, oh, you don't need to do that because I did.
Right. Yeah. So those are all kind of like schedule things in the morning. I'll send you the link to it. It's beautiful. It's made my life a lot easier because I get to like just get things off my plate, clear out my inbox, but don't feel like I'm completely harassing everyone that I'm emailing.
Yeah, no, that's terrific.
So you get bogged down with emails and stuff, and I think like I totally get that. I mean, you probably get, obviously you're also representing people, so it's a little bit different in that sense too, because people are like, hey, I need help with this.
Need an issue, and I decided early on that I don't care if someone's a constituent when they reach out, and that's a big deal for my office. That fundamentally changes the workload of my office. But early on, I knew, especially when I was the only out person in the legislature, if you're a gay Pennsylvanian and you needed to access government and you weren't having any luck reaching your own legislator, I'm your legislator. Call me. Yeah. And I wanted people to know that. And, I've been to all 67 counties of my state. And every time I go anywhere, I tell people, I don't care what your issue is. I don't even care if it's an issue that I could just pick up the phone and call your legislator and they would deal with it. We'll deal with it. If it's something that we can do, we'll do. And so what comes with that is also the attendant responsibility to get through it all. And, if you're a trans Latina in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and you want to make sure that the name on your driver's license is your real name, I'm here to help. And I like that we get to do that. It means that my colleagues know that I'm a specialist in some things that are unique to us as a community. And I have found that to be really fruitful.
I think that sounds exhausting just even talking about it. So yeah. I can imagine it is just to keep up with. What are some of the local challenges that you guys that you sort of face that are just sort of unique to your county and your region?
The biggest is simply the thing that you mentioned earlier, the gerrymandering. We're the last great gerrymandered state left in the United States. There are 1 million more registered Democrats in my state than Republicans, but Republicans control the General Assembly as though they had a 2 million vote lead. Wow. And that was all computers and algorithms around the last 2 times that we had redistricting. And you'd think that if you had stolen leadership ideologically, that you would soften your edges, right? That you would maybe do some things that the majority wanted, so to not highlight the fact that you have a false control. And the data says the exact opposite, and that's what I see in my state, is that I see that because we have gerrymandered Republican leadership that shouldn't have control, they want it all, and they want it now. They introduced bills to ban trans kids from having health care. We tried to introduce a 21-week abortion ban last year. There are no statewide LGBTQ civil rights in the Commonwealth. And so, none. And so, I keep, my hands are full, and I stay really busy working on these things. But the power dynamic is the most broken problem with working on issues in and around. I can talk for days about education funding, racial and ethnic justice, LGBTQ civil rights, first and second generation immigrants' rights, criminal justice reform, all of it. None of it really matters until the system is a working system. And right now it's not working.
Yeah. The system isn't working for anyone. We're kind of seeing that just overall. It works for the 1% and everyone else is kind of screwed, and it's sort of sad because I feel like, I think that these people that want to just hold on to this power, it's like so important to them that I'm like, can you just find a way to like get what you want, but also like help others?
Yeah, right. Like not every single thing you need has to be defined by making sure somebody else doesn't get it. Right. It's that if the only wins in your life are defined by others' losses, then what have you really won?
Well, and the thing that always cracks me up is like if you go back like 10 or 20 years and look at like the politicians who've like been caught in like gay scandals and all that thing, it's always Republicans, like it's just always these people who like have been, staunch like no to gay rights, no to this, no to that, and then they're caught with like some, gay hooker doing coke, and it's like, just go be with the hooker and do coke. Like, no one cares. Like, just do your thing. But they're so
enough with the hypocrisy. I said on a radio interview I had a couple years ago, and I got a lot of pushback about it, but it turned out to be true, that more Republican members of Congress have been arrested for sexual misconduct in bathrooms than all trans people in the United States.
Exactly. It's obscene, and that's the thing. It comes back to that classic, who barks too much type thing. It's like always the people that are complaining are always the one doing it.
It's so true. I will say this, if I can leave you with maybe something that make you feel hopeful about it, is that the answer, the antidote to broken American politics is something that we've known for a long time. And it's simple. It's representation, which is almost the building block of our politics to begin with. If we're about representation and we need representation to be good, we should be good, but we don't. We don't have very good representation in Congress or in almost any state legislature in the country. Afghanistan and China, as a percentage, have higher numbers of women in their governments than we do. But in this last election cycle, more women, more second-generation immigrants, more people of color, and more LGBTQ people ran for office and won than at any time in U.S. history. And we're the antidote. We're the antidote to broken, underrepresented representative democracy. And, that can't be undone. It's not something that's going to happen next year or the year after. If people get mad enough, they will do it. We've already done it. We have already begun filling the ranks of representative democracy in America with people that look more like America and don't look like these cis, straight, white, wealthy ivory towers, and for good measure, not just because it's the right thing to do, because it actually is the useful thing to do. Right. They say that people who have never had to overcome anything don't know how to overcome anything. And we just saw that with Congress. All these silver spoon privileged people presented with a problem that impacted, millions of people, let 300,000 of them die. We can do better, and we already are.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's really kind of sad just seeing how our government doesn't represent us, and we have a long ways to go, but it is starting to feel hopeful. I feel we're kind of like coming up over that peak a little bit, where it's like, okay, we'll get there, and the thing that always bugs me, it's like equality isn't pie. It's not like if you have a slice, someone else doesn't get it. It's like, just let everyone sort of have it and, represent them equally.
But there's also this idea that we know empirically that when people are succeeding, they find other pathways to success. When people are creating success, it's easier for others to achieve success. Not in a trickle down way, in a rising tides kind of a way. Yep. When there is truth to lifting up all boats. The person that's going to cure cancer right now might be at the most underfunded school in Northeast Philadelphia, and she's not going to get a break because we gave that money to Walmart. That's what economic and social justice means to me. It means making sure that the people who are going to create the scenarios, create the success that we all depend upon, have the ability to do it, and then we're not starving the rest of us to support the few.
It's true. I mean, it's upsetting,
It's upsetting. But again, we're changing it. We're changing it.
Yeah, we'll get there. Well, I have one last question for you. And before I get into it, I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking time to chat with me today. I know things have been insane in this election cycle, and being part of politics that has to, especially just everything that's going on in Pennsylvania, like after the election. What's for dinner tonight?
What's for dinner tonight? That's a really, really good question. I just got home about 25 minutes ago. I need to run over to Whole Foods to pick up something. What do I want to cook tonight? So I've been baking a lot of bread lately, which, because I'm gay. So that happened. I have a KitchenAid.
I was just saying, I do love how gay you are on Twitter, because it's actually very fun. I'm not overtly in any way. I'm just sort of I have my moments, but I am how I am just in real life, And so I always find it really fascinating when public figures are, because I get some people you should do more. I'm I just do what I normally do. I don't, I'm vocal about the things I care about, and, I don't avoid it for any particular reason. It's just literally who I am as a person. So I love especially when RuPaul's Drag Race is on, I love all your tweets about that. I think that's what we first started DMing, is over RuPaul's.
Yeah.
Yep. So I love all that. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I wanted to just interject that.
No, it's interesting. I remember when I first came out to my college teammates. I was playing football when I came out. And I remember a line that one of my closest friends, who's still one of my closest friends, used, and he thought it was a nice thing, and it wasn't, and it stuck with me. And he said, your brand of gay is okay with me. And it infuriated me. I tried to explain to them that I'm no gayer or straighter than a 90-pound twink with glitter in his hair and, shimmery wings hovering a foot off the ground. And that matters to me a lot. One of the great blessings of my life about being a gay man is that I don't have a whole lot of performative machismo in my life. There's there's not a 1 ounce of pretending to be anything. And I think that's part of the reason that both queer people resonate with electors and that we scare the hell out of our opponents. Authenticity. Yeah. Authenticity to those people that are inauthentic seems like a superpower. And maybe they're right. Just being yourself, it's a hell of a lot easier than being somebody else, but authenticity seems to really terrify people. And there are days in my prissiest, my prissiest moments, it's still all me. And, and I like that. I like that I can beat my colleagues arm wrestling and probably show many of their wives a better date.
Right. Well, so I have two things based on all that you just unpacked there. One is you said you mentioned you're reading a lot of things right now. Are you into comics by any chance?
It's not that I'm not into comics, but I especially the last couple of years, I haven't come across anything that really grabbed me.
Okay, I just released one. I started this new comic book series for getting kids to cook, and cool. I'd love to send you a copy.
Please send me a copy.
You mentioned the whole superhero authenticity thing, so I think that's, I would love to send you a copy and get your feedback on that. And I also think, just from all that, I think we should definitely do another interview sometime around gay pride, because I think that we could just go down that road a lot. I agree with you. And I think it's like when I'm on Scruff and I see the mask for mask people and I'm like, instant block. It's just like,
right.
I can't
you'll be like, oh, shame on you. Or
it's
don't you know that you'd rather date somebody that is themselves in their own skin? And honestly, the butchest, toughest guys that I know will squeal like 10-year-olds at a good Disney movie. And it's my favorite thing about don't trust anybody that is stuck in a box of emotional security. That sucks.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I feel like part of me kind of just makes my blood boil a bit because I'm like, oh, you're probably that bully in school that beat up kids for being kind of gay or whatever, even though you were. And then I'm also kind of I feel really sad for you because you have this internalized homophobia that you don't even know how to address so much that you put it in a public profile, And so,
right. That you're leading with it. Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. I think we should definitely come back to this at some point. I think it would be really fun.
I'm great revisiting this during Pride.
Awesome. I know. It might be, hopefully not, but it might be virtual still at that point.
I know. Let's hope not. Oh.
I know. Well, thank you so much for today. Oh, wait, I didn't get your dinner question. Do you know what you're going to have? If you don't know,
I am. So I talked a little bit about it earlier, but I have figured out how to make this really incredible sort of cream of mushroom soup using I live right above Chinatown, and there's this place that's got 6 or 7 different types of mushrooms, but 4 or 5 of them I think are what I'm gonna make a mushroom soup tonight.
Very nice. Well, I look forward to seeing photos, and thank you so much for chatting with me today, and hopefully we can do this again soon. And I just really appreciate it. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
This has been a lot of fun. It's about time that we did this. We'll definitely have to do this again. Maybe we'll do a round robin and see what some of my colleagues are cooking for Pride this year.
Yes, that would be awesome. And hey, when I finally get around to being able to do that road trip, we will just, spend a few days just eating ourselves to death. And
come to Philadelphia. We'll go get some cheesesteak. The chicken seitan cheesesteak is the award-winning chicken cheesesteak in Philadelphia, and it's seitan.
I love seitan. It's so delicious. In fact, I keep meaning to do a homemade seitan recipe because
please do.
It's so easy to make. Actually, it's not. I mean, it's not easy, but it's not as difficult as people think. And it's easier than tofu, and I think the way it just brings on flavors.
I certainly like it more than tofu. Yes, I will watch your seitan episode.
Okay. I'll throw a Satan joke in there just for fun, too. Awesome. Well, thank you, Brian. It's been a real pleasure, and I will talk to you soon.
Jerry, this has been a blast, and I will talk to you really soon, too, as well. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
So he's a fun guy, right? So be sure to check out my other interviews. I've sat down with Freddie Prinze Jr., Sarah Moulton, Ed Begley. There's lots of fun people on the channel. Check those out. If you like food, hey, subscribe if this is your first time watching. If you like to cook like I do, I release new videos every single week, and I will see you next time.